Yeah. So I'd like to just ask you a few questions about your trip to China. So I'd first like to know, where did you go?
I went to Beijing and Jilin City.
Okay, and how long were you there for?
About 10 days in total.
And what was the purpose of your visit?
I went to visit my teacher. I learned some basic Chinese with her and she moved back to China, so I went there to visit her.
Okay. So you said when you went to China you had a basic knowledge of the Chinese language.
Yeah,
did that make
basic.
it easy to communicate with Chinese people, or how did you find it when you initially went to China? How was communication?
I didn't need to do a whole lot of communication because I already used the internet to plan a trip around China. So mainly the communication was at shops and things. I could use some basic Chinese, but you didn't even need it. You could use kind of body language and get your point across with a little bit of English. And they always understand a little bit of English as well.
So it was a lot more like pointing and hand expressions.
Yeah, you could go there without knowing any Chinese and still get around. Although people without any Chinese, they didn't have much confidence from the hotel. They were always asking the reception to get them taxi to everywhere. Whereas if you could understand some of the language, you could get around the underground train system and get a bus or get a taxi by yourself.
Yeah.
But it wasn't essential. I think it's more people's fear of interaction than the actual interactions themselves.
Okay. Right, that's very interesting. So we've covered the language side. I want to talk a little bit about the culture. Did you know a lot about the Chinese culture before you went?
I did know some things, yes, from my tutor. But obviously you can't know everything, and there's always going to be those cultural clashes with
Do you have an example you can share with us?
Well, I heard in your other interview about the photo taking. That's kind of rude to just take a photo of someone in the Western culture, but they just do it in China, no problem. And kind of you get like a celebrity following sometimes. So I went shopping in Jilin City, and then I realised somebody was following me around. Everything I put in my shopping basket, they copied exactly the same. So I started to take it out, and they just copied. So that would be considered a little bit strange in the UK, for example.
Okay, so do you think it would be better for a Westerner to know a bit about the Chinese culture before they went, to stop being offended or offending people while they were there?
Yeah, I think maybe they need to know about bargaining in shops. Sometimes in restaurants, Chinese people can seem quite rude because they're just kind of shouting over the waiter or whatever, and it's normal to kind of have a big sort of, looks like an argument. If you don't know what they're saying, it looks like a massive argument with the waiter. So you do need to kind of know what's going on, and that it's not going to be all quiet and polite in the same way as Britain. It's not that it's impolite, but it's much louder, and people sometimes, they don't know, they think there's some kind of conflict happening where it's not there, and it's just the way they're speaking.
So, yeah. You said that your teacher was she teaching in China then?
She's a middle school teacher in China. In the UK, she was teaching a little bit of Chinese to foreigners.
So do you know
these ethical and international relations? No.
So do you know through her what the kind of business communications are, like how she does business in China, how that may be different to Western ways?
The hierarchy is very important in China, and you would present a better quality of gift to someone who is higher up in the hierarchy. So for the UK, maybe even if they're giving gifts to foreigners, they usually say, oh, foreigners, we don't need to get them a great gift, we just get them something cheesy and something to do with our culture. It could be really cheap, because we don't really care about how much, because we don't feel insulted if we get like a little charm from the market. Yeah, great, it's Chinese food.
Yeah, we'd be happy with it. Just to finalise, I just want to know if you have any advice to anyone who wants to go to China, what they should do beforehand or while they're there to make their stay better.
I think it's good to just get to know a little bit the very basic things about the culture. Don't be offended when someone's eating their food and they're making noises like a pig. That's very polite in China. All of my Chinese friends, they're like, why don't you make any noise when you eat noodles? I'm just eating, why would I make noise? So just being aware of these things, you don't have to know, you just have to be open to different situations and don't apply your own culture to another country.
Just one last question. How would you try to approach with local people? How would you like to how would you approach with local people? I mean, how you communicate with them, trying to approach them? Like, would they come at you and try to talk to you, or it's more you?
No, they usually, people are quite shy about talking to you.
Is the one IMG international relations? That's one.
Yeah, people can be quite shy about approaching you. But if you approach them, they're usually very, very friendly and just they've been dying to talk to you anyway, but they were too scared of that kind of idea.
So
But they're keeping that distance, they're keeping us. It's impolite to just walk over and speak to someone. One of my Chinese friends said to me, if someone just comes and talks to you, they're a weirdo. If they give you a hug, run. This kind of, even if you talk to them for a while, if they want to hug you, run. So it's very different.
Okay, anything else, guys? Perfect.
That's
Thank
it.
you very much.
Thank you very much.